You cannot spend 5 minutes on YouTube or a personal finance blog without someone telling you to open a Roth IRA. At this point, it's basically the avocado toast of personal finance. Everybody's recommending it, nobody's stopping to ask if it's actually right for you. Let me be upfront about something. I am not here to bash the Roth IRA. I genuinely like this account. It's one of the most powerful tools available to everyday investors. But it gets a wildly disproportionate amount of attention compared to almost every other retirement vehicle out there. And for a lot of people, that imbalance is quietly costing them real money. Not because the Roth is bad, but because they're optimizing the wrong account first. Hey, I'm Smith. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're breaking down what an IRA actually is, where the money in these accounts really comes from, why the media can't stop talking about the Roth specifically, and most importantly, whether one belongs in your plan at all. That last part is the whole point of this video, so stick around. The reality check nobody talks about. About 44% of US households own an IRA. That's nearly half the country. On the surface, that sounds like a win for financial literacy. But here's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. Most people aren't funding these accounts consistently. Across all US adults, only around 5 to 10% max won out in a given year. Even among people who already own an IRA, only about 15 to 25% actually hit the annual limit. The picture gets more interesting with median data. Fidelity has reported the median IRA contribution sitting around $700 a year. The average is closer to $1,600. Compare that to the 2025 limit of $7,000 or $8,000 if you're 50 plus. Most people with an IRA are putting something in, but the majority are leaving a lot of tax-advantaged room unused. Why? A few honest reasons. Some are prioritizing their 401k instead. Others are dealing with a mortgage, childcare, student loans, or high-interest debt. And for a lot of households, coming up with $583 a month, what maxing out a $7,000 IRA works out to is genuinely hard. That's real money. So when someone says, just max out your Roth IRA, understand that's not a casual suggestion for most Americans. But this contribution gap isn't even the most interesting part. Let's keep going. Where IRA money actually comes from. Here's something we almost never talk about. And once you understand it, it reframes how you should think about these accounts. The vast majority of money sitting in traditional IRAs today did not get there because someone diligently contributed to it every month like clockwork. It got there through rollovers. Best estimates suggest 70 to 90% of all traditional IRA dollars originated as rollovers from workplace retirement plans, primarily old 401ks from previous employers. Picture every $100 sitting in IRA accounts across the country. Roughly $85 of those dollars arrived through a rollover. Maybe $15 came from someone contributing directly. That tells you something important. The IRA, in practice, functions primarily as a rollover vehicle, not a contribution vehicle. And that contradicts the picture we've all been sold, someone diligently building a massive IRA balance over 30 or 40 years of steady contributions. That's not really what happens for most people. Most of the money that ends up in an IRA arrives as one large lump sum, usually triggered by a specific life event. Someone leaves a job, retires, or consolidates a handful of old 401s into one place. To be clear, I'm not criticizing this. A rollover can be a genuinely excellent move depending on your circumstances. But it means we should rethink the blanket advice of just open an IRA and start contributing, when most people aren't actually doing that in any meaningful way. Why the Roth IRA gets all the headlines. So here's the natural question. If most people aren't maxing out contributions and most of the money in these accounts arrive through rollovers, why does the internet treat opening a Roth IRA like the single most important financial decision of your life? There are 3 specific reasons, and once you see them, you'll start noticing this pattern everywhere. Reason 1, IRAs are a consumer product, while 401k plans are a workplace benefit. You cannot shop around for your 401k. Your employer selects the plan and you're stuck with it. But an IRA, you can open one today at Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, or any brokerage in about 15 minutes. That means headlines like the best Roth IRA accounts of 2026 are highly clickable, rank well in search, and can be monetized through affiliate partnerships. Financial publishers love IRA content because it comes with real affiliate link potential. 401k content doesn't have that mechanism. Money follows eyeballs, and eyeballs follow content people can actually act on. Reason 2, Roth IRAs generate emotionally compelling headlines. Tax-free money in retirement is a genuinely exciting hook. Compare that to tax-deferred growth in your 401k, which sounds like something printed on a liability waiver. Same underlying concept, completely different emotional pull. The better headline wins every time. Reason 3, the rules around Roth IRAs are genuinely confusing, which creates an almost infinite supply of content. Income limits, the backdoor Roth, the the pro rata rule, the 5-year rule, withdrawal ordering, conversion strategies, inherited Roth rules, you could publish a new article every week for 3 years and never run out of material. Great news for me, I've got a lot of videos left to make. Here's the irony though. Despite all that attention, 401k plans often matter far more financially to the average working American. In 2026, the IRA limit sits at $7,500. The 401k limit is $24,500, plus catch-up contributions if you're 50 plus. The 401k builds the bulk of most people's actual retirement wealth. The Roth IRA just gets the bulk of the headlines. Okay, so where does the Roth IRA actually shine? I don't want this to come across as skip the Roth entirely, because that's not the message. Let's build the honest case for why this account can be genuinely great, because in the right circumstances, it is. Number one, the tax advantages are real and they compound over time. A traditional IRA gives you a deduction today and tax-deferred growth. A Roth flips that. No deduction now, but tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals later. Put $7,500 a year into a Roth for 30 years at 8% average growth, and you're looking at roughly $850,000. None of that growth gets eaten by dividend taxes or capital gains drag along the way. Number two, IRAs offer investment freedom. A lot of workplace plans don't provide. I want to be blunt here. Some employer 401k plans are genuinely mediocre. Limited fund menus, high expense ratios, hidden fees, no ETF access. An IRA at Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab gives you ultra-low-cost index funds, ETFs, individual bonds, and far more control. If your employer's plan isn't great, an IRA can be a meaningful upgrade. Number three, and this one is huge for people approaching retirement. Roth diversification creates real flexibility. Having a mix of taxable, pre-tax, and Roth money lets you manage your tax bracket year by year in retirement. It helps you control IRMA surcharges on Medicare and manage how much of your Social Security gets taxed. Over a 20 to 30 year retirement, that flexibility can genuinely be worth real money. And speaking of Medicare premiums, this is where my partner Chapter can help. A lot of retirees don't realize their income in retirement affects more than just their tax bill. It can also affect what they pay for Medicare through IRMAA, income-related monthly adjustment amounts. This is exactly why planning ahead matters. If you're approaching Medicare eligibility, Chapter is a genuinely excellent, completely free resource, an independent Medicare advisory firm that helps you compare plans across carriers so you understand your coverage and costs. On average, people who work with Chapter save around $1,100 a year. Number four, for some people, a dedicated IRA creates a genuinely useful psychological forcing function. When you have an account labeled, "This money is for retirement," it tends to improve your saving behavior almost automatically. This is called mental accounting. How we label money changes how we use it. Here's where I'm going to push back on conventional wisdom. Now let's get into the part that probably won't show up in most other Roth IRA content out there, because I think it's genuinely important. If you already have an excellent 401k, low-cost institutional index funds, a strong employer match, maybe even mega backdoor Roth access, or a great HSA option through your employer, obsessing over opening and maxing out a separate Roth IRA on top of that might be completely unnecessary. This might genuinely surprise some people, but some employer plans have access to institutional share classes that are actually cheaper than anything you'd find in a retail IRA at a regular brokerage. If your workplace plan is already excellent, adding a Roth IRA on top might not move the needle much for you at all. And here's something the Roth IRA crowd almost never talks about: liquidity. Money sitting inside a retirement account is fundamentally more locked up than money sitting in a regular brokerage account. Yes, when it comes to your basis in a Roth IRA specifically, there is some wiggle room. There are workarounds for accessing contributions early. But generally speaking, this money is intended to stay put until later in life. If you're building capital toward a home purchase, starting a business, pursuing early retirement before age 59 and a half, or just want a larger and more accessible emergency cushion, a regular taxable brokerage account may actually serve you far better than locking additional money away. This is especially true if you're pursuing financial independence or an earlier than traditional retirement timeline. And here's the thing, a taxable brokerage account can be far more tax efficient than most people realize. If you buy and hold broad index funds, your turnover stays low, your expenses stay low, your dividends are often taxed at favorable, qualified rates, your gains aren't taxed until you actually decide to sell your shares, and there's even a step up in cost basis at death, which can eliminate capital gains taxes entirely for your heirs. Let's walk through a quick example to make this concrete. Say you invest $5,000 per year into a broad market index fund, something like Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF, ticker VOO. That fund currently carries an expense ratio of just 0.03%, meaning you're paying roughly $3 per year for every $10,000 invested, essentially negligible. Now let's assume an 8% annual return after expenses, along with a 1.15% dividend yield, which is roughly in line with what broad index funds have historically produced over long periods. If those dividends get taxed at the 15% qualified dividend rate, here's what your tax bill actually looks like over time. In year 1, your tax bill is less than $9. By year 5, with a portfolio around $29,000, you owe roughly $51. By year 10, with around $72,000 invested, your tax bill sits around $125. Fast forward to year 20, with a balance around $228,000, and your tax bill is around $395. And by year 30, your portfolio has grown to roughly $611,000, with an annual tax drag of about $1,055. Even at that point, 30 years in, your annual tax bill only represents about 0.17% of your total portfolio value, and it's barely larger than the fund's own expense ratio. The fund cost stays tiny, and the tax drag stays surprisingly modest the entire way through. And when you do eventually access these funds, remember that you pay 0 taxes on your original contributions, since that money was already taxed before you invested it. Only your actual gains get taxed, and those get taxed at favorable long-term capital gains rates, potentially 0%, 15%, or 20%, depending entirely on your income level in the year you sell. Taxable brokerage accounts are significantly underrated in most personal finance conversations. And honestly, this is a hill I will die on. And finally, one more important caveat. If someone still has credit card debt sitting at 24% interest, has no emergency fund whatsoever, and hasn't even captured their full employer 401k match yet, I would never tell them to go max out an IRA first. The math simply does not support that decision. This is what I'd call misplaced optimization, technically doing something good, but doing it in the wrong order, where the IRA actually fits in your financial priority stack. So where does the IRA actually belong when you're deciding where your next dollar should go? Here's the mental model I personally use, and I'd encourage you to think through your own situation using this same framework. Tier 1. These items are almost completely non-negotiable. First, capture your full employer 401k match. This is essentially an instant 50 to 100% return on your money before you've even invested a single dollar anywhere else. There's genuinely nothing else in personal finance that compares to it. Second, pay off any high-interest debt sitting on credit cards or personal loans. Third, build a real emergency fund. Nothing else on this list can really happen at meaningful scale until these 3 things are handled first. Tier 2, this is where the IRA actually lives, and it's competing here against some other genuinely excellent options. If you're eligible for a health savings account, that should often come first. Even within this tier, it's triple tax advantaged, there's no use it or lose it restriction on the funds, and the money can be invested for long-term growth just like a retirement account. After that comes your IRA, or Roth IRA. And after that, additional 401k contributions beyond just the match, assuming you actually like your employer's specific plan. Tier 3. Once tiers 1 and 2 are fully handled, now you can start thinking seriously about taxable brokerage investing, making extra payments toward your mortgage, real estate investing, and other alternative strategies. The key insight here is simple. The IRA sits in tier 2. It's valuable. It's important, and it's absolutely worth prioritizing once your foundation is in place. But it's often not a tier 1 account. And for some people, with genuinely excellent workplace plans, choosing to forego an IRA altogether can be a perfectly wonderful decision. On the flip side, if you don't have access to any employer-sponsored retirement plan at all, I personally bump the IRA all the way up to a tier 1 priority for you specifically, since it becomes one of your only tax-advantaged options. The bottom line. Here's what I want you to walk away from this video with. The Roth IRA is not a must-have account for absolutely everyone. It is a must-consider account, and that distinction matters more than it might sound. If you have a mediocre workplace retirement plan, an IRA can represent a genuinely meaningful upgrade and a smart financial move. If you have an excellent workplace-sponsored plan already, you might reasonably decide to forego the IRA entirely because you're already maximizing the utility of every dollar the moment it lands in your employer plan. It really does depend entirely on your specific situation. The reason the Roth IRA dominates personal finance coverage online has almost nothing to do with how universally important it actually is for every individual person. It has almost everything to do with the fact that it's extremely clickable. It resonates emotionally with readers, and it's remarkably easy to monetize through affiliate partnerships. That's the honest, unglamorous truth behind why you see it recommended everywhere you look. So whether you personally need an IRA or a Roth IRA specifically, really does depend on your own circumstances, your workplace plan quality, your income, your timeline, and your broader financial priorities. Take a genuinely hard look at your own situation and decide if this account actually fits into your life. Because at the end of the day, the best accounts for you are the ones that actually fit the life you're living, not the ones getting the most clicks online. What are your thoughts on the Roth IRA versus the traditional IRA? Do you think everyone should have one? Or do you think it's far more situation dependent than most content out there admits? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I genuinely read every single one. I post new videos every single week. So if you got anything at all out of this one, a like genuinely helps a ton. If you're new around here, go ahead and consider subscribing. And if you know someone who might get real value out of this kind of content, please consider sharing it with them. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.